Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the topic of loneliness because I think this will go along nicely with the video that I made most recently on workaholism, and I can talk a little bit about that based on my experience both being in the US and living abroad in Finland, and maybe some theories as to why I think that this is more of a pertinent problem now versus maybe in the past. So when I was living in Finland, I did struggle a lot with loneliness, mostly probably due to the fact that it was COVID, so it was a little bit harder to get out and meet people. However, I think that it also stemmed from being in a completely different environment where I didn't necessarily have so much of a reason to go interact with the local population, so I ended up spending a lot of time interacting with other international students, and they are very limited in Finland. I mean, they exist, but it's not the majority of people. And I remember saying to one of my other international counterparts there how I was feeling lonely in Finland, and it was just so hard for me, and I had never really experienced that kind of loneliness until I moved to Finland. And then he said to me, "Has it ever occurred to you that maybe in the US you are lonely, but you just don't realize it?" And I kind of thought about that, and I was like, I don't really know. And then when I moved back to the US in September last year to start my full-time job, I started working, and maybe after 2 weeks, I remember texting him and being like, I think that you're right. I think I do experience loneliness here. I just didn't notice it. And it took me some time to reintegrate into US society again after living in Finland for nearly 2 years. Supposedly it could be related to some sort of adjustment disorder thing, which I think that I probably struggle with. Yes, I will learn more about that soon because I did do a neuropsych eval, which actually I do want to make a video talking about how neuropsych evals are conducted because it's a little bit hard to find information about them on the internet. So I can talk about my experience. But anyway, in that we discussed whether I have an adjustment disorder and just trying to understand why my move back to the US after Finland was so difficult for me, because really and truly it was. I talk about this in my other video in Russian, but my whole week prior to departing Finland, I just kind of cried every day because I loved my life there so much and it was really hard to leave. And I was pretty depressed coming back to the US for maybe a couple months. And yeah, so going off of that, I do have friends obviously in the US. I've lived here most of my life, and I tried really hard to make an effort to connect with all my friends because I know that they say that like being social is one of the best medicines, not just for loneliness, but for depression also. It actually can have more of a positive impact than antidepressants themselves. And I think that sometimes people are afraid to reach out to people because maybe there's a certain vulnerability with that or fear of rejection. But what I found is that most of the time, if I reach out to people, people are willing to hang out with me, even if it's people I haven't seen in years. I think sometimes people have this imaginary timeline in their head, like if I haven't talked to this person in X number of months or years, we're not really friends anymore. I never feel that way. I talked about this in my other video in Russian. I just feel like everybody is my friend, and some people get really upset with me for labeling people as my friends so easily, but it's how I feel connected to the world, and it makes me feel happy. So that's how I like to look at it, and I understand that other people have different views on that, but that's how I choose to think about it, and that's, yeah, my choice with that. So, yeah, coming back to the US, I think at first I was trying really hard to acclimate and be friends with people, reconnect with my friends. And then after a while, in going back to the discussion on workaholism, I call it plugging back into the US matrix. Yeah, when I watched that movie, I really related to that a lot because I'm like, wow, that's what life in the US feels like. Because here, it's like an obsession with, maybe this is just a me problem, but, in general, I feel like I'm culturally influenced in this way. An obsession with overachieving, with working a lot, those are the things that are praised in society. One person did comment on my video and talked about, well, yes, that makes sense in a US context, but probably not anywhere else in the world. And yes, I would agree with that. Because in Europe, there's more work-life balance versus in the US, everything's capitalism, everything's competition, everything's more, work harder, more money. And you just sometimes, the way I describe it is I feel like I'm on a treadmill that I can never get off of while I live here. And the ironic part about it is it's sort of how I cope with living here, as I explained previously, because people are talking so much about what they're doing. So I think that this comparison really drives some sort of isolation, because if a lot of my discussions are going to be with somebody, my dog just jumped off the chair. I don't know where he's going. Great. If a lot of the discussions I'm going to have with people are about what I'm doing, it kind of after a while starts to stress me out personally, and then I feel like I don't want to have those conversations, and then I just end up isolating myself a lot to work on the things to reduce the discomfort around not working hard enough, because I think that's something people here are perpetually worried about, and I do think that drives people apart. The other thing, because obviously romantic relationships are prized in pretty much every society for the most part, once people get into those romantic relationships, they tend to become even more insular, and they lean on that person a lot for their only source of social interaction, which I think puts a lot of pressure on their relationship, a lot of strain on it, and further isolates people. So I do think that in the US, it's a combination between, expecting to get all those things from your romantic partner, and maybe that's something that happens in other countries. I don't know. I'd be curious to see if Finnish people think that as well. The combination of just working a lot. And I think that, while technology can make people feel less interested in interacting with people in real life, I think that it also provides more opportunities for being able to connect with people out of a remote setting, because there have been a lot of times where I've interacted with somebody, because I saw that they were somewhere, they saw that I was somewhere based on my Instagram, and those were really cool experiences. So, I don't know, maybe this is interesting, maybe it's not, I have no idea, but I do think that loneliness is a problem that, everybody experiences, and at times in their lives, and I think that being more honest and vocal about those can help bring us together and feel less disconnected. I think we have a lot of great opportunities for connection. We definitely had that opportunity during COVID when a lot of things went remote. I feel like I still had a pretty fantastic social life, even though eventually I got kind of tired of seeing myself as a talking head and others, and I just wanted to be around people in real life. Like, I think, we should not discount the amount that being together with people in real life really serves in terms of people's well-being and ability to connect more strongly with those around them. So, I guess that's everything that I have to say about that. I'd like to hear some other topics that you'd like to hear me talk about in English. I know one person said that they really like hearing my videos in English. I kind of like recording them because it's way less work for me than the Russian ones, even though I know they're less popular. I can talk more about life abroad and stuff like that. For those of you who are feeling lonely watching this, I do encourage you to reach out to at least one person. At least one. And if that person says no, reach out to another. And if that person still says no, try again in a week. But try to reach out to somebody and hang out with somebody in real life, at least in the next week. And if you do this, leave a comment if you want to, because I want to see how many people I actually motivate to do this. And maybe I should try to do this too, and I should talk about it in one of my follow-up videos. Also, pets are great ways to feel less lonely. I feel like I joke that my dogs who are sitting with me now, I will make a guest appearance with Harley again. So, and then Diesel's over here, but he's sleeping. Not really, but I just don't feel like picking him up. But I joke that they're my coworkers, so you can always invest in pets too, because they do bring a lot of joy. However, you have to be careful that you're not overly emotionally reliant on your pets, because that is also a sign that you don't have enough real person relationships in your life. So maybe I'm guilty of that right now. Anyway, that's all I have for today, and I look forward to my next video, whatever that's going to be about. I usually think of them the day of. So everybody have a great, today is Monday, rest of your Monday, wherever you are in the world, in whatever time zone you're in, and until my next video, bye.